What's up, guys? I usually don't do these type of review videos because I feel like I don't want my channel to be all about reviews. But I just saw this title and it was intriguing, so I thought might as well, watch this video, see what this guy talks about, and actually react to it. So it's called "Reacting to Carnivore Diet Copers." I don't remember what the channel is called. I'll probably link it down below. But yeah, let's see what this guy has to say about carnivore diet copers. First and foremost, the first fallacy here is showing Dr. Paul Sadino. He's not a carnivore dieter. He isn't even advocating for the carnivore diet anymore. He wants people to consume carbohydrates in the form of fruit and honey. So just a bunch of fructose, basically, because he himself felt bad on the carnivore diet because he did something wrong, which I won't speculate on here. But yeah, that's the first fallacy. So just right off the bat, this video is already totally wrong. But let's see what this guy has to say.
In this video, I want to react to Cope when it comes to nutrition, and in this case, Paul Saladino, which doesn't know anything. And I also want to talk about how liars talk and how truth tellers talk when it comes to nutrition, but also other areas, and you'll see what I mean.
Instantly, we can tell that this guy is very close-minded. He has already made up his mind from what a truth sayer is or truth teller is and what a person who lies is. Basically, he's saying here, he's implying that Paul Saladino is obviously a liar, and then I guess he will show some type of truth teller later on in the video. What this indicates is that he immediately, right off the bat, has already made up his mind that this guy, Dr. Paul Saladino, is a liar. Like, doesn't make any sense. I'm watching this video. I'm open, to anything. Honestly, I am very open to anything because I like to challenge my beliefs. I like to be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm growing as a person. If I wouldn't like to have my if I wouldn't like having my beliefs challenged, then I wouldn't even be on this path that I am today. I wouldn't be able to go through all of my transformations that I've been through. So having this narrow mindset and not being open to actually learn new ideas is childish, to be honest.
Cholesterol. I get so many questions about this, you guys, and whether eating red meat will raise your cholesterol. The question you should be asking is, are you metabolically healthy?
Just moving the goalpost doesn't really prove that LDL is not a good metric, even though we know it is.
And
You show no proof, you just say that LDL is a good metric without showing proof? Religious belief, or what's your point? If you think, or if you believe, or if you have any type of evidence, then you should always show it, or at least you don't even have to show studies or whatnot. You can just, explain why you believe it. But simply saying we have good metrics and not showing any proof or not even explaining makes Paul Saladino look smarter than you here. So
I believe that if you are metabolically healthy, you don't care if your cholesterol goes up.
Metabolically healthy just means you're at a low body weight. Usually you have low body fat. This is what it means. If you're overweight, you're not metabolically healthy. But even if you're not overweight, red meat is going to increase heart disease risk.
A little.
Okay, so true misconceptions there. The first one being, if you have low body fat, you'll be metabolically healthy. That's not true. That is not true. We can take, for example, people in India. They have relative low body fat. I'm not going to say that they have optimal levels of body fat percentage, speaking in general terms, but most people there are pretty lean, or maybe some of them might be more on the skinny fat side. However, they're not, I wouldn't say that they have a high body fat percentage. They have a relatively low to mid. Are they metabolically healthy? No. We can see that the majority of people there are suffering from chronic disease, and the most predominant one being diabetes type 2, which is caused by diet. So that's the first lie. And I don't even remember what he said the second time. Let's see.
LDL is not a good metric, even though we know it is.
And I believe that if you are metabolically healthy, you don't care if your cholesterol goes up.
Metabolically healthy just means you're at a low body weight. Usually you have low body fat. This is what it means. If you're overweight, you're not metabolically healthy. But even if you're not overweight, red meat is going to increase heart disease risk.
How is red meat going to increase heart disease risk? Again, he's not proving anything. And if he was to prove anything, he wouldn't be able to do it because there is no sufficient evidence out there to prove that red meat causes cancer. All studies, yes, all, that somehow show that red meat causes cancer or heart disease or chronic disease overall, there's two types of studies, right? It's the one looking at cholesterol, and it's another one looking at basically just red meat overall increasing the risk of like colon cancer, for example. Now, these two are absolute jokes. Like these two studies in particular, it isn't two studies per se, it's two subjects, and there's been numerous studies on these two subjects, are absolute jokes. Like, quite honestly. The first one, let's talk about the first one with the colon cancer thing. The colon cancer myth about red meat and the increased risks is a joke, because what they are doing is they're taking, first and foremost, processed red meat. So it's not, a grass-fed ribeye or grass-fed ground beef. It's mostly processed junk. Second of all, they are asking people to fill out a questionnaire and evaluate how many times they ate red meat. And do you know what classifies as red meat in those questionnaires? Do you think it's a grass-fed ribeye that I just spoke about? Or some fantastic ground beef, rich in omega-3s? No. It's pizzas, it's hamburgers, it's takeaway foods. It can be literally anything with meat on it. So, for example, a pizza that has salami would be considered red meat. A hamburger, which is just like mostly plant-based. If you think about a hamburger, it's lettuce, it's tomatoes, it's sauce, it's bread, it's seed oils and plants. And then you have a thin slice of patty, which is probably processed anyways. But if we're speaking in terms of grass-fed, grass-finished meat, pasture-raised meats, there's not been a single study, and there won't be a single study ever. So what we have to do here is you can either listen and become sick, or you can try it out yourself. That's number one. Number two, let's talk about the heart disease studies. The thing is, he might talk about this subject in this video, but I'm just going to say this right now. The heart disease studies are also absolute jokes, because what they look at is association. You cannot show anything by showing association. I'm going to pause this recording and just look up a picture and show you guys what association actually can prove. So just hold on for a second. So this picture right here is what association can prove, and this is what association proves. With association, you cannot prove anything because there are so many other things that goes into it. What you have to show is a causality thing. Like you have to show that this causes heart disease, or this causes cancer, or this causes greater health outcomes. You cannot just say, oh, it's associated with. I can find numerous studies associating so many ridiculous things with nonsense, okay? I can, for example, I'm pretty sure I can find a study where we can see that ice cream sales, more ice cream sales, is associated with more shark attacks. Is that a causal relationship? No, it's a associative relationship, but it doesn't prove anything. It doesn't prove to us that people buying more ice cream will result in them getting more, likely to have a incident of a shark attack. That's just ridiculous to think that. It's absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
A little bit if you eat red meat. My cholesterol is high. I'll be honest with you.
Wait, so 130. If you want to be safe, it should be below 60. If you want to have 0% risk arteriosclerosis, so basically LDL clogging your arteries. And his is at around 130, so his here. He's fucked, basically. And he's trying to convince you that his LDL is fine, even though we have a bunch of randomized controlled trials proving that it isn't. And also, I don't like naturalistic fallacies, but if you look at chimpanzees, they have 30 to 50 of LDL, and babies have 30 to 70. And the ideal amount for humans is actually pretty similar. It's probably around 30 to 60. Over 60, you are already increasing the risk of heart disease. And also, to add to that, LDL is not essential because pretty much every cell in your body can create it. And even if you don't consume any dietary cholesterol, your body's going to produce enough. That's the definition of a non-essential nutrient. And like I said, he never really talks about the top of the pyramid when it comes to evidence hierarchy, because he doesn't have any evidence. He rarely mentions studies, and when he does, they're either rat studies or in vitro studies. He doesn't talk about randomized controlled trials because they disprove what he says.
Honest with you.
Wow, this video is way worse than I thought. It just keeps getting worse, and it's only been 2 minutes of this. Hopefully it gets better. It's 9 minutes. But yeah, okay, let's break this down. First and foremost, right here, wait a second, let's just rewind to the diagram he was showing us. This is an absolute joke of an illustration. This is probably the worst thing to show anybody. I can pull up numerous studies disproving your indication here, okay? There are numerous studies showing that higher LDL has better outcomes for lifespan. So like we can just go on and on here. And then what you're doing is you're asking ChatGPT how much LDL cholesterol do chimpanzees have, and then how much LDL cholesterol do babies have. For what reason? I literally do not understand what was your point here. I might have missed something in the video, but I'm not sure where this comes from. Like, what are you trying to prove? That it's normal for us to have between 30 to 70 milligrams of LDL? Or like, what's your point? I really don't understand. It's very weird. And then you saying that since the body can create LDL, or cholesterol rather, it's not going to be an essential thing. Yeah, look, I'm not going to sit here and say it's essential in that way, because we can create it. However, wouldn't it be better if we consumed it, because it's going to make the job for our liver easier, since it can focus on other things than just producing cholesterol? Because when you eat dietary cholesterol, your liver doesn't produce as much because it can regulate itself. These are the same people saying, oh, we should eat carbs and fiber. But those two are not essential at all. But you guys will justify consuming carbs and fiber. Doesn't make any sense. And then he talks about how Paul Saladino never shows any type of evidence. Yeah, do you know why? Because your evidence is fucking bullshit studies that's funded by the big food. Like, the evidence you're showing isn't even evidence. It's oftentimes, I would say the majority of the times, honestly, it's bullshit studies. They don't prove anything at all, like whatsoever.
Many doctors would tell me to get on a statin, but I'm like,
And they're right. Actually, what you should do is just try to lower your LDL below 60 with diet. And if you cannot do that, then use a statin. But in most cases, people can do that with diet alone.
I'm not going to do that because I'm metabolically healthy. It's easy to test this. You can just get a fasting insulin. And we know that in humans who are metabolically healthy, levels of LDL cholesterol are horribly bad at predicting cardiovascular disease.
Not true, obviously. We have a bunch of meta-analysis and systematic reviews, top of the pyramid, proving that LDL is a very good predictor of heart disease. LDL and blood pressure.
I believe what
Blood pressure, absolutely, because that's what causes the damage of the arteries. Like, of course, blood pressure, of course, I do agree with you. However, LDL, it's not been proven at all. So I don't know what you're yapping about. It's absolutely crazy.
Western medicine is lying to you, that you've been misled by fallacies parroted by your doctor regarding cholesterol and red meat and saturated fat. In fact, cholesterol is beneficial in the human body, participating in the immune response, being associated with healthy levels of hormones and fertility, and being associated with significant longevity in old age. This is a health food. Don't fear it when it comes to cholesterol, but you must be metabolically healthy. And you guys know how to do that if you follow me.
It's crazy that, first and foremost, I absolutely agree with Dr. Paul Saladino here. Like, I might not agree with his whole take on carbs, but that doesn't make him a good proponent. Anyways, my point here is that I do agree with Paul 100%. The thing is that with statins, people think that, oh, I'm going to take a statin so it lowers my cholesterol. It does so much more than that. Like, it causes so much more harm. One of the things that people don't talk about, especially this guy, because he's probably clueless, is that it literally fucks up the regulation of CoQ enzyme 10 in your body. For those of you that don't know what CoQ enzyme 10 is, it's a crucial vitamin that your body uses to actually regulate the electron transport chain in your body. This is how your mitochondria produce energy. Like, this is going to be a very deep topic, so I'm not going to dive into this in today's video. But my point here is that if you're taking statins, you're not just lowering your LDL cholesterol, you're causing so much more havoc, because by basically making your mitochondria work less and produce less energy, what are you doing? Remember that your mitochondria is the powerhouse of every cell in your body. Like, it's literally why you live. You know, the mitochondria is such an underrated thing that people don't even look into. And I guess this guy doesn't know. Obviously, he doesn't know. Like, I'm not even trying to be kind here. He doesn't know how important mitochondrial function and health is.
Again, it can be important, but doesn't mean it's essential, because even if you don't consume dietary cholesterol, your body's just going to produce enough. Here's how truth tellers actually talk, which is basically the opposite of Paul Saladino. But I'll give you one example.
Wait, is it going to show some clip of Simon Hill, a vegan, talking about truth?
We have these statin trials, which you see as a lower LDL cholesterol, you drive coronary heart disease risk down. And then on top of that, we have all of the observational research. There's a meta-analysis, the prospective studies collaboration that included 50 plus studies, 12 million plus person years follow-up in that study. And it clearly shows in these cohort populations, lower LDL cholesterol, lower risk of coronary heart disease.
So when Paul Saladino, with his insanely high LDL, says, don't sweat it, don't worry about it, you don't need to concern yourself with this, how is he scientifically substantiating that?
I don't think he is.
And this is true, but this type of content does not go viral. People want things that are controversial. People want things that are shocking. That's what gets the clicks. Like, if you just talk about studies, no one cares. People are just going to ignore you, unfortunately. And so Paul Saladino gets millions of views, meanwhile this guy doesn't. Which is unfortunate, because this guy actually talks about the studies that are on top of the pyramid. He talks about randomized controlled trials, he talks about systematic reviews and meta-analysis of those randomized controlled trials. And he also talks about observational studies, so he has a variety of studies that he mentions. And we do have a bunch of randomized controlled trials proving statins work, meaning that when you lower cholesterol in the blood, your risk of heart disease goes down and your longevity goes up on average. Meanwhile,
Oh my days. What type of studies show that statins work? You can lower LDL cholesterol with anything. Nick Norwitz, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him, but if you're not, please go and check him out. Amazing YouTuber. Amazing guy overall, but he's a YouTuber as well. I believe he is a PhD at Harvard in medicine, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, he did an experiment where he basically lowered his LDL by literally consuming Oreos. So what's your point here? Oh, statins work because we can see an actually decrease in heart health. Increased heart disease. Sorry. How are we measuring that? And then second of all, you're taking Simon Hill, and I believe the other guy was is his name Rick, maybe, or Rich? I can't even remember. My bad. He's taking those two guys and then just blatantly saying, oh, these two are truth tellers, like, because they talk about studies as if studies aren't flawed. Like, people, look, we have two kinds of people in this world. We have religious people who like believe in religion, which you can do that if you want to, or you have people who believe in science, and I mean you religiously believe in science. So you think that nutritional science and everything science related is the truth. There is nothing else besides science. And that's just obviously not true. Human beings are flawed. Nutritional science, by the way, like if we're going to categorize science into nutritional science, because that's basically what we're talking about here, is a joke at best. Like, I am being very, very generous here when I say it's a joke at best, because it's even worse than a joke. Like, it's so brutal how nutritional science overall has messed up our whole civilization. Like Ansel Keys, for example, probably the worst human being to ever live. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. And the reason I'm saying that is because he was so... Look, we have dictators all over the world, and we've had our fair share of dictators. But what they do, they're at least honest with their plan. Okay, I'm not saying that they are, good human beings, but Ansel Keys was a straight up liar and such a... I don't even know like how to describe him, but he basically made the whole population after the 50s and 60s chronically ill. And today we have a sick generation. Kids are literally being born with chronic disease because of him. Like, I'm going to be honest, he is probably the one that caused all this, and it's insane. And what was he doing? Nutritional science. So how are we going to base all of our logic and whatnot on nutritional science when we know it's flawed and it's so easily manipulated? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And to basically just think that, oh, but this study shows that statins, for example, can lower LDL, we should take statins, is so crazy, because it's absurd how people don't realize that basically creating a study costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time, and it's very hard because human beings are flawed. You would basically have to lock up people for years. Like, I'm talking about years. Give them a specific diet and then track all of their blood work and everything they do. Also, like, do such a great observation that you literally track every hour out of the day, because you have to see what they're doing. Are they sleeping correctly? How's their light environment? Because are you under artificial blue light every day, or are you outside in nature? How much water are you drinking a day? What are you consuming, throughout the day? Which hours? Like, there's so many things to take into considerations. And most studies which are done on nutrition is short term. Like, it's oftentimes 4 or 5 weeks, or like I've seen some do 3 months, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, 3 months sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's nothing. Like, you would have to take years, 10 to 20 years, to actually see what happens in the body, because there are so many mechanisms that are left out by just looking at studies being done in like 4 or 5 weeks. So it's just pathetic at this point.
All you see on YouTube, especially all these carnivore people, all they talk about is mechanisms.
Sorry, by the way, I wanted to comment on another thing he said. He said that, Simon Hill's, videos or whatever, like these types of videos, truth tellers, as he likes to call them, they don't go viral. Like, bro, are you joking with me? The majority of the world is plant-based. Like, what are you talking about? It's a minority who consumes meat, or mostly meat. Even if people consume meat, they don't consume red meat. They consume like chicken, fish, and even if they choose red meat, they choose the low fat percentage red meat. So this whole like, Paul Saladino goes viral. Yeah, I do agree with you. Like, he does go viral because he's a bit controversial, and he also knows how to catch attention. I think it's great, but you can't simply say that, these types of videos, they don't go viral because he's talking about the truth. Like, what?
Even if they mention studies, you would be at the bottom of the pyramid, but they don't even mention studies. It's just mechanistic speculation, which doesn't mean anything.
How is it mechanistic speculation when we actually know what's going on? Like, what? You and all the other copers out there, because you guys are the real copers, you are actually talking about speculations, because what you're doing is you're looking at nutritional science studies, which are done and just looking, at people for like 4 weeks, and that's it. And then you basically take those results and you say that everybody should follow this. Everybody should increase their fiber intake. Everybody should lower saturated fat because it's so dangerous.
Context of science. Like, no one takes that seriously. We're going to play this clip from Paul Saladino and Joe Rogan, and then I want to talk about it a little bit.
One of the reasons saturated fat has been thought of as bad for so long is because it raises LDL. But if LDL is not de novo causing atherosclerosis, then we
Yes, it is.
have a whole
No, it's not. And you didn't even prove anything. You just say, yes, it is. Clown. You're a total clown.
different equation.
Well, let's get into that, because this is one of the big questions that I got when I told people I was going to eat an animal-only diet for a month. They're like, what about your cholesterol? What are you going to do about your... And I'll be like, ugh. And I try to tell them that dietary cholesterol does not raise cholesterol in your blood level.
Yes, it does. Like, what the fuck? Why is this so commonly said? Because, like, if I eat sugar, my blood sugar goes up. But then if I eat cholesterol, my blood cholesterol goes up, people are going to say, oh, that's not true. We already have a lot of studies. But do you need, like, even more to prove that? Like, if you eat sugar, your blood sugar goes up. If you eat cholesterol, like, somehow it's controversial. Like, obviously it goes up. Here's a clip from Nutrition Made Simple, which is a pretty...
Wait. No. Pause. Did this guy just compare eating sugar, which makes the blood sugar in your blood obviously raise? He just compared that to consuming cholesterol, which he says raises serum levels of cholesterol. He must be joking. Like, I am actually baffled that he said that. Wait, like, guys, I just need a moment to think, because that was probably one of the most stupidest, dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. And I've heard some stupid shit. For example, my doctor, when I started the carnivore diet, asked me about B vitamins. He was like, how will you get your B vitamins? But this right here, way more stupid. Oh my God. So, wait. When you're consuming sugar, why do you think it's raised in the blood? Maybe because it's taken up by the fucking bloodstream. Cholesterol does not, like, eating exogenous cholesterol, basically eating it from food, so getting it from your diet, eggs, saturated fat from red meat and whatnot. does not raise it the same way sugar does. Yes, it does raise it so minimally. Like it's so bro, it's not even a significant amount, okay? The reason for this is because the liver produces 2/3 of the amount of cholesterol produced in the body. When you consume dietary cholesterol, what happens is your liver notices that and it regulates itself. So it's like, okay, I don't have to produce as much as I was doing before, basically, because you're getting it from another source. It's like, to compare it with sugar just proves to me that you know nothing, which I'm glad, because now I know I won't ever watch any of your videos because you're a total clown and a joke, which is good. Now, it would be better if you compared it to, let's say, testosterone. For example, your body produces testosterone, right? However, if you take exogenous testosterone, which bodybuilders do, then your body notices that and says, okay, look, we have testosterone coming in from another place, which means we do not have to produce our own testosterone. But comparing it to sugar is a joke, and you are a joke.
Pretty good channel when it comes to nutrition.
What if we could give people eggs and then swap them in and out without them even knowing it? Impossible? Some nifty scientists figured out how to do it. They gave people egg or egg substitute. Indistinguishable taste, but 4 times less cholesterol. Start people off with eggs for 4 weeks, their blood cholesterol level shoots up. Switch them to the substitute, their cholesterol drops. Do the experiment the other way around. Start them off with the egg substitute for 4 weeks, cholesterol goes down a bit from their baseline, switch to real eggs, cholesterol shoots up. And that's double blind. So the volunteers didn't really know if they were eating the real eggs or not, and even the experimenters didn't know.
Which means it's uncorruptible. You cannot corrupt these studies where you don't know who the placebo group is. And also if you look at
Nick Norwitz's video, again, shout out Nick Norwitz. I believe he ate 720 eggs, and it didn't raise his cholesterol. Like, what type of people are you looking at? How many were there? What were their diets overall? Like, were they only consuming eggs? Of course not. Of course not. And as I said, short-term studies can't prove anything. Like, every single oh my God, people that are afraid of red meat or saturated fat overall, they always have this mindset. Like, they can't think long-term. They can't see the broader picture. And I'm not trying to speculate, but I believe, like, I'm being dead ass, I believe it's because they don't get omega-3s. EPA and DHA is essential for brain health. And without those two, you have brain fog, you won't be able to think clearly, you will just basically, be like a zombie and be brainwashed and just listen to all the propaganda that's being spewed out. And I honestly, believe that people who don't consume those foods that I just mentioned, they suffer from that. Like, they can't think for themselves. Okay, they listen to something and they immediately think, oh yeah, that's the truth. Like,
look at the research, cholesterol is absolutely associated with lower longevity.
Associated. Thank you. Not, it doesn't cause. It's only associated.
As you can see here, the higher the LDL, the lower the probability that you're going to live a long life. So LDL of close to 200 or more is associated with the most cardiovascular disease. Meanwhile, cholesterol under 100 is associated with a much lower probability of dying from cardiovascular disease, which is common knowledge in the scientific literature, but somehow we have so much misinformation in the manosphere in general. And I have no idea why, because it's so clear in the scientific evidence that LDL increases cardiovascular mortality. We have so many randomized controlled trials. It's so established. And then people speculate on mechanisms. I don't care, what do you think happens to my insulin when I eat something? I care about heart outcomes. Do people that eat those foods live longer? That's all that matters. And when it comes to red meat or foods that are high in cholesterol, the answer is pretty much almost always no. People live shorter lives when they eat high cholesterol, when they have high LDL. And if you want to minimize your risk as much as possible, you should probably be below 60 when it comes to LDL. And people are going to talk about, oh, but what about testosterone? But that's BS. That's just fear mongering. Just test your blood levels of testosterone before and after, and you're not going to see any change. Basically, my LDL is low, my testosterone is 800, so it doesn't really matter. And yeah, my LDL is below 60, so I'm pretty much fine when it comes to that regard.
And they just glaze over, and they're like, well, you're taking in a lot of cholesterol, and it's just most people don't have the time to research this or to get into the weeds and to try to shift their perception about what cholesterol is.
But research for these people, basically watching GoTo's videos or Face IQ videos or just watching podcasts or other YouTubers, like it's not research. Like research is actually looking at the pyramid, seeing what actually matters when it comes to uncorruptible studies with high quality of evidence and low risk.
How do you know it's uncorruptible? Like, I don't understand this. Why are you so close-minded with everything? Like, you say something and you believe that that is the end-all be-all. You say something and that's the truth. Like, how do you know they are uncorruptible? Oh, because actually it says here down below in the study that it's not corrupted, so I believe them. Clown. Like, you are a total clown. And of course, you shouldn't just look at YouTubers and, you know, evaluate and base all of your information around them. You have to do your own research. I've been on the carnivore diet for 3 years, and before I started, I did, like, for 2 weeks, I watched YouTube videos and whatnot. After those 2 weeks, when I had gotten some information, I did my own research. I looked at anthropology, evolution, other theories. I read studies. I looked at, okay, these studies that prove that colon cancer increases if you consume red meat. What are they actually looking at? And the reason I was so, you know, skeptical was because I had IBD, ulcerative colitis, and it was, bro, I was this close to getting my bowels removed basically because I was so sick. So I thought to myself, if red meat would increase the risk for colon cancer, it means that the carnivore diet wouldn't be ideal for me since I have IBD. So I had to do this. Like, I literally had to dig deep and see all the facts for myself. And I found out most studies out there are bullshit, because when I found out that the studies proving that red meat causes colon cancer, or at least it increases the risk of it, and I saw what they're looking at, they are epidemiological, which is a joke, observational, which also is a joke, and it's also, red meat is categorized as pizza, hamburgers, and whatnot, like hot dogs even. I just knew, oh my God, like, how much more out there is bullshit? Like, how much more out there is things that we've actually been told, but isn't really the case? Like, we have to actually dig deep and find out for ourselves. So I do agree with this guy to an extent. Like, you shouldn't just, you know, base off your information off YouTube videos. Not even me. Like, what I'm saying here, I want you genuinely to go out there and find the information for your own. Like, don't just listen to me blindly. I'm not some type of god or whatnot, okay? I'm just a guy. I've found what works best for most human beings, and I strongly believe through the evidence that I've watched that this is the way we should eat. There's no discussion. And yeah, that's basically it.
Risk of bias and actually studying those studies, researching those studies, especially the systematic reviews and meta-analysis of those randomized controlled trials. That's what matters. Like, the rest is completely corruptible. The rest has a high risk of bias. Just watching a podcast doesn't mean anything. It's not research. You have to read what those studies say, and they all go against what the manosphere propagates when it comes to nutrition advice. But yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that video was pretty bad, to be honest. And I'm not trying to sound like corny and whatnot, but the information was bullshit. He didn't actually prove anything. He just gave his own opinions, which is usually a bad sign of knowledge. He doesn't know anything about biochemistry, biology, all these mechanisms that are happening in our body. He basically just, you know, made a joke about insulin in the end there, where he said, oh, I don't care about what happens with my insulin. You should, buddy. You actually should. Like, if you would have known anything about hormones and how the body works, you should be worried about insulin, and specifically if you consume a lot of carbs. But yeah, nonetheless, I don't do these videos all the time. I believe this is my first one. If you enjoyed it, however, drop a like down below. If you want my help, I have a link to Calendly. You can book a call with me. I'll help you from everything with, if you have some type of chronic disease that's, you know, the mainstream medicine won't help you with, maybe we can talk over the call and see if I can help you. If I can't help you, I won't coach you. Simple as that. I would also highly recommend you guys follow me on TikTok and Instagram, because I post daily there, and it's also easier to reach me on Instagram. I might not reply to every DM because I get a bunch of DMs every week, but I will try my best to do that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Peace out.